Welcome to Wowed by Zones, the podcast about reviewing every zone in classic MMO, World of Warcraft. I'm Ari.
I'm Torn, and I will enjoy being wowed or not wowed by this zone or not zone.
I'm Eowyn, and this is certainly a zone that exists. Torn is wrong.
In WoW, which means it must wow you necessarily by definition. By definition, you wow it. The experience of playing it.
Definitions work.
You are playing WoW. You are wowed by the zone. Apparently.
Do you know what acronyms are?
What's the right answer?
Tfu.
You know what?
Sorry.
I gotta go, guys. I have to leave this place.
Okay, so speaking of leaving this place, this is a zone that you go to. We're now talking about Silverpine Forest, a zone that you go to when you leave Tirisfal Glades. That's a great transition.
That's not true. You actually you first go to Western Plaguelands, you die to the Vulcan Bear, and then you go here. You get the order right.
You don't need to die to the Vulcan Bear, to be clear. You can simply turn around and not go that way.
I disagree.
The NPCs literally tell you don't go this way.
They said, it's too dangerous. Also, look how scary the land looks.
Have you ever played a game where someone's told you, don't go this way? We have not gone that way.
That's fair.
Exactly.
Anyway, Silverpine kind of feels just like an extension of Tirisfal Glades in a lot of ways. Like, it's the same basic, like, look to it. It's, like, maybe a little grayer compared to, like, the more, like...
To be fair, Silverpine is it's a pine heavy forest. It feels more sort of like I would say more like Canada or Norway than it does like Tirisfal Glades feels like a broken down version of like something more like England or Northeast like America in terms of its actual like geography. The geography is significantly different. But doesn't really like. But I agree, and sort of the feel doesn't really change that much, right? Despite like the foliage and stuff, and then like the geography feeling very different. You would expect it to be a different feeling zone. You still just feel, oh wow, I'm in an undead zone, so everything's gloomy and sad and upsetting.
Yes, it's a spooky. You go from one spooky forest to another spooky forest, and the vibe doesn't. Yeah, I'm with you there. The vibe doesn't really change, which is mostly just notable compared to like Darkshore and Loch Madon, both of which were like pretty significant vibe shifts from from the zone before them.
Yeah, well, we're still definitely both feeling like they were continuations of the feeling of the last zone, right? And this zone in that way still captures that. It is the second zone of every single faction sort of areas, like not the area that their empire has full control of, but rather a secondary, like an outpost, a
frontier,
a colony, the frontier, exactly, right?
So especially feels like a frontier.
Yes, there's like a couple little there's just one, like the sepulcher, which is pretty funny. It's just a fucking sepulcher.
Yeah, it's
really small too.
Yeah,
it's like there's almost no one there. It's definitely much less colonized, so to speak, by the new Lordaeron Empire, like by the Undead Empire. Just it's very much like, okay, we're trying to grab onto the parts of what was the old Lordaeron Empire and reclaim it for the undead.
Yeah, and which is kind of interesting because with Undercity with Tirisfal Glades, you sort of feel like there is a sense of maintaining certain structures, right? Like Brill isn't that changed from the places before. It's now creepy, it's shifted, it's weird, but ultimately the farms and the buildings and that sort of thing are all maintained and close to their state, if a little bit run down or ruined or falling apart, but they're still in that state. Silverpine Forest, not at all. You only have the sepulcher as a place, which is just literally like, it's not a place anyone lived before. It's just a a graveyard, basically.
Hey, there's a shack next to the graveyard.
It's true.
They're maintaining that shack so well.
I thought that was kind of interesting as like a shift, right? As we leave the core of the Lordaeron Empire, you get less things to the undead to hold on to, and so you more just sort of give into that pure undead lack of meaning or truth or sense of shared narrative.
It also helps to make the zone feel like dangerous. Like this is not a place that you can travel through safely, on account of it being infested with wolves and worgen.
Yeah, that's sort of the main villain, like the big villain going through the zone is there's a bunch of gigantic elite worgen, which are like werewolves, that just kind of run around, and they're called Sons of Arugul. You find out later that Arugul is a wizard who, it seems, accidentally discovered a curse and has started using it on people and turning them into lycanthropic monsters. Yeah.
I actually think it was a very cool vibe to just like see one of these massive worgen just stalk through the things and just have to run away from them. I think it did contribute to like the really like the vibe that this is a dangerous, hostile place, and you being here is like very, very much like you have moved out of the safer zone of Tirisfal and into the danger zone.
Yeah, it's like this place needs to undergo significant change to be a place where the undead can live.
Yeah,
foreshadowing is a technique developed by that is owned by H Bomber Guy. TM.
Get out of here. But yeah, there's only
I
one.
wish I could get owned by H Bomber Guy, if you know what I mean.
I choose not to know what you mean. I respectively realigned my neurons. Anyway, there's only one. I think one.
Hey, at least I'm not talking about trolls.
I prefer
He's a human, at least. He's a human guy.
But there's only one time you actually encounter any Forsaken outside of the Sepulcher, and that's basically there's some little slick spies who've been sent on to check on some worgen activity, at a farm and stuff. And one of the people you find out there is like dying of some sort of like poison. I don't know how undead die of poisoning, but he is dying of poisoning. And you have to go and kill
it
animals.
Doesn't make any sense. Like you stab skeletons to death. Like WoW isn't very big on anatomy immersion, I guess.
Hey,
yeah, but the point
skeleton with a sword.
The point is like it just hammers home that what we talked about a little bit, right? Leaving even this little outside this little pocket, which is attached very specifically to the undead's sense of connection to their death and rebirth as the only unifying shared narrative they have. If they leave that space, the only space we can find them is their suffering and falling apart. But they're supposed to be the top agents, but you basically have to bail their ass out, right? I thought that's kind of cool, right? That's a really cool way of expressing the danger and just alienation that exists in the zone, on top of undead experience of feeling disconnected, because all the places where you're supposed to be safe, these farms and villages, that sort of thing, are just infested with threats.
It also really continues the narrative that exists in Tirisfal Glades, that the undead military sucks. We are basically 3 minutes away from dying. We are out of supplies. We are out of troops. Everything is a complete struggle all of the time. It's these are literally supposed to be our top agents, and they got taken out immediately. I'm pretty sure in the quest it says oh wow, this is pretty embarrassing.
Yeah, no, that I agree with that. That's really cool. Unfortunately, while the vibe of the environment itself being this hostile, dangerous place is cool, it completely fails to sell you on its main villain. Arugul exists throughout the zone theoretically as this threat that all of the worgen serve him. And there's this huge village of humans that turn into worgen at night, and that's pretty cool.
And a big keep where there's a bunch of elite worgen, the dungeon. The problem is the main quest giver, who gives you the Aragorn quests, like all the things that relate to him, does not respect Aragorn at all and makes fun of him at every opportunity within the quest text.
Yeah.
Like this kind of makes it feel like Aragorn isn't actually a threat or a scary guy to you, the player. You're just like, oh, he's some loser wizard who accidentally stumbled onto this magic curse, and now he's like sort of using it, but he's such a loser, haha. Like, and that's kind of the vibe of the quest, which really detracts from the scariness of Aragorn and the Sons of Aragorn.
Yeah, I definitely agree, but I think to get a sense for what Aragorn is and like how he fits into the broader undead story, we have to go a little bit like forward into the zone and talk about Fenris Island. Because I think that sort of like solidifies Aragorn's place in this world. We talked in our Tears for Glades episode about these two wizards who basically were, they died. They were both raised as undead, as scourged, and were freed from the curse. One due to Sylvanas breaking their curse, the other one just as a powerful necromancer seemed to break free himself. And they sort of came together and it was a big emotional part of the Tearful Glades is these two people finding each other again and being like, well, we remember our times back as Dalaran mages together and trying to reconstruct some sort of shared love, for one another in the world, right? They had a third friend, in fact, in their little cohort, who we find on this terrifying undead this area full of undead gnolls.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's different necromancers raised who of one of their third friend who's supposed to be their third colleague, but of course he's not just the one friend who is thought that he was the only one around. This guy knew that they were Forsaken, but he sort of sold himself out.
I feel like they should have expected the guy named Tula Ravenclaw to betray everybody.
I don't know what you're talking about. That sounds like a really trustworthy guy to me.
Yes, we love people who are named after Nazi freaking occultism.
But the point is, this guy raises his attachment. He literally is just basically having his own power trip, where he's like, I am the lord of this island. I will control everything. I
thought he was also working for the Scourge.
He was, yes.
So he's working indirectly for the Lich King.
Yeah. But really,
one of the quests also has a little a base for one of his shades, just showing up, just espousing Scourge propaganda. It's actually pretty cool.
Yeah,
it was.
He definitely has a strong presence, weirdly stronger presence than Aragorn. He's supposed to be the big bad zone, but literally while you're in the Fenris Keep, looking for him, working through his vast. This is a very dangerous place, really hard to work through. It's very effective at sort of instilling the danger of this place.
There's too many gnolls.
There's this. We find some gnolls playing around with this guy's head. And we're like, what the heck? The head starts talking to us. We're like, hey, what's up? Oh, I'm freaked out. Can you help me find my body? It turns out this guy was an apprentice of that guy, and the guy who runs this castle and is betrayed, the Forsaken, and he basically went to get his master's wills, and so the master sort of took his body apart and forced him to this forever state of I don't even describe it. He can't move, he can't do anything. He's just a living bones basically. Pretty fucking gruesome, but I found the test quest really fun and interesting in the way that he had to steal the guy's wand, which was a gift from one of the other members of the trio of ex-Dalaran. I'm gonna call them Polycule because they definitely were Polycule.
Undead wizard Polycule. Okay.
Yes, literally.
To be fair, they weren't when they were a Polycule.
Yeah, now they're just two because one of them betrayed them. Hot. Anyway, I really found that the building up to this terror of this guy, the way he treats his apprentice, the way that he's thrown away his friendship, the way that he's embraced the Forsaken dismissal of emotions and experience and love in a way that, while all the Forsaken claim to have done so, it's very clear in the actual the text quest text and their actual reaction to things that they don't actually have that rejection. That rejection is almost a social cope for the fact that they've lost everything and they feel like they have to block themselves off. This guy actually properly embraces the Forsaken experience, and I thought this little quest of this weird headless guy trying to reunite him with his head with his body and finding this wand did a really good job of communicating that disconnect, and just almost like highlighting the humanity of the Scourge through showing the inhumanity of someone who is as the Scourge appear to be, not the Scourge, the Forsaken appear to be.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
also
that's
the
really
entry
effective.
like into the quest is really cool in that you've gone down to the docks and you find just like a bunch of bodies wrapped up in cloth and like clearly being taken over to this island. It's a very like visceral, horrific image. Like I think it's the most effective visual storytelling that the zone has.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And the issue with the zone is well, that's the most intense part of the zone, but it's sort of a weird side story, right? It's attached to Dalaran. Dalaran is the big human like magic city, which is like was supposed to like which is always like in the distance. You can see it when you're at Fenris Isle, for example, like across the lake. And like throughout the zone, you find these Dalaran wizards. As they're sort of like the second most common enemy after the Worgen. You find out maybe
Worgen,
third
yeah.
after Worgen and the undead. And sort of like littering the zone. But like the Dalaran mages don't seem to have like that strong a presence besides just being there, right? You go and you fight them a bit. Okay, it doesn't really feel like there's any point of it. Just like, oh, well, they're Dalaran, so they used to be, in the human empire, which doesn't like us, so we're fighting them. And then, the Worgen are here, but as Awen said earlier, the one guy who main quest here has us kill the Worgen and find Argol, finds Argol to be this ridiculous, pathetic loser, and so there's nothing to do with him. So.
Which really undermines, by the way, the underdog position that the Forsaken feel like they have in the zone overall, compared to the Wizards of Dalaran, Tula Ravenclaw's Scourge, and Arugul's Worgen. Like, the Forsaken there should be the underdog in this zone, so having this arrogant mage doing what he does just really undercuts that feeling in a way that I think really doesn't work.
Yeah, I think it was not the best choice in terms of like establishing Argol as the main villain that he's supposed to be of the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, yeah.
And yeah, sorry, you were Torrin continue.
Also,
I
think there's something about the Dalaran apprentices wandering around that like I didn't think about it that much. That strikes me as very sad. Because Dalaran was completely destroyed in the Third War. Like a giant demon fucking just destroyed it after destroyed the city after Arthas had already raised it and killed every single archmage personally. So and all that's left of Dalaran is this basically fucking crater, and then a bunch of apprentices just wandering around aimlessly. It's like, oh, well, we don't really know what to do because all of the important people were killed and we're just apprentices. Like it kind of, it's really sad. But of course, none of that is really super evident within the questing of this zone because, this zone isn't about Dalaran, it's about the undead.
Yeah, but there was a relationship between the undead and the Dalaran, as we saw, with the different mages we've talked to, and the Fenris Isle leader and his apprentice. And that's the thing. Dalaran should be a pretty core part of the undead experience, because the Dalaran were close allies with Lodoron, and they must have a weird division. The fact that they just sort of are, they're annoying mages. These cursed mages are always on our thing. It feels like it fails to use this really core historical relationship, and I feel like there's a really good chance to actually delve deeper into the storytelling of who the Forsaken used to be and what they are now by relating them to the Dalaran, but they don't do that at all, and I find that kind of sad, right? Because both Dalaran and Lodoron in different ways face disaster, but Dalaran's disaster was something almost more understandable, where the Lodoron disaster was something completely, you can't make sense of it. It makes no sense, right? It's like your entire sense of self is shifted. And the way that that sense of self shifting versus just a more normal disaster of a bunch of people dying is hard, there's different experiences of society collapsing. I feel like could have a good communication and a good relationship and tell us more about both situations, but they don't today. It's very frustrating.
Well, I think it's just their situations are also completely shared. It's like both Dalaran has been destroyed and then the undead's sense of self and home has been destroyed, and both are kind of trying to reclaim, like the undead very explicitly are trying to reclaim what they were before the Third War by taking back Lordaeron and making it into something new for them, the former residents of Lordaeron.
Yeah.
But for Dalaran, these people aren't trying to do anything. They're just wandering around their destroyed fucking city, just kind of existing.
To be fair, there is a massive shield where the city used to be, and it is. I feel like it felt like it was implied that part of the reason that the guys were out there was like gathering supplies and stuff to just help rebuild the thing.
I don't know.
That's sort of the impression I got.
I think they're just like Torrin said, there needs to be more interaction there. It's not very clear to the player like what the hell is going on.
Yep, and that could better and what the sorry?
No, go ahead.
And that could also better help sell Arugel, the former Dalaran mage, a formerly fairly unremarkable Dalaran mage, who has unleashed this Worgen plague upon Silverpine and effectively become its lord and master, ruling it from this castle that he is, ruling it from this like castle that dominates the countryside, that he has effectively become his personal fiefdom. Like, that's a cool setup for a villain. Why do you have no interactions with him that aren't just like a guy being dismissive of him and the actual dungeon itself?
Well, to be fair, they're also the Sons of Argo, which I think do effective. They're just like level 25 elites that one of the zone and just like basically insta kill you if you run into them. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah. No, that's good. You know what I think would have been really cool to have some sort of quest where you get the wizard undead guy to meet up somehow with another wizard that he had known back in Dalaran when he was alive, and they team up together and to take down Arugel or something, like, you know. But of course that's complete like yeah. I just I just wanted more explicit like interaction between the former residents of Dalaran and the former residents of Lordaeron.
Yeah. There's one more element I think of that's interesting of Silverpine. That's the Gilnean Wall, right? Just, like, basically, you know, there's Dalaran, there's Lordaeron, and then there's the third old ruined human kingdom, the one that's most intact at this point, and that's Gilneas. Gilneas has built a giant wall, like basically sealing Gilneas off from the rest of the world because they became a bunch of xenophobic, like scared of the world. Which, you know, to be fair, I see why they did.
Also they were right. They didn't get turned into undead. They just got turned into Worgen.
Not yet at this point. They're still humans at this point.
We haven't made it to the. We haven't gotten to the Cataclysm zones yet.
Sorry, just wait 6 more years and then they'll all be Worgen.
Yes. Actually, 3 years. Cataclysm only 3 years away.
What the fuck? That's crazy.
Yes, the early WoW
makes no sense. It's insane.
It makes a lot more sense later on. They start doing bigger gaps, but the first 4
if I was a resident of like the World of Warcraft world, I would just give up. I'd be like, okay, so this year the Horde and the Alliance are like being hella crazy. And there's like this big fire demon guy. Okay, all right. Okay, we dealt with that. Oh, next year. We have to go stop the Legion, a bunch more demons from invading. So we're going to a different planet to do that. Oh, okay, we dealt with this. Oh, next year. Oh no, the Lich King is back. Better deal with that. Oh, next year. Oh no, a big dragon destroyed everything. What? I would just give up. That's too much to deal with.
You know, that's fair.
But yeah, but Gilneas, and the Gilnean Wall is this really striking figure, and it's filled with these refugees who are trying to get into Gilneas, because obviously they see it as like the last human refuge in the whole northern and eastern kingdoms, who of course they don't let them in because, you know, they're...
Yeah, Gen Greymane is such a great leader. He said, no, you guys get to die to the plague or the scourge while we sit inside and we chill.
But there's a really cool quest that actually gets you there, that takes you to the wall in the first place. And basically, you find this ring, which is like a wedding band, and you're like, oh, whose band is this? You bring it back. You ask the people in Spolka, and they're like, I don't know. Why don't you go to Undercity and ask them there? Like, I don't know. Check out. It seems to be the Brill person, right? You get a Brill, and you ask the magistrate. They're like, oh yeah, this person was died. They were buried, and they were died when they were alive back a long time ago. They were buried in the Brill cemetery. Their husband is an undead though over in Undercity. You should go and talk to him, ask him about it, right? So you take the ring back. After running all this around, I thought first of all the running all around, and this has been mentioned, is a little bit annoying by one of my colleagues. But I don't find it annoying. I find it kind of interesting because you're almost like you found this like relic of the past, and you're like trying to track down who it was that who had it, like who they trying to bring this like maybe a little bit of joy, maybe a little bit of nostalgia back to someone's life. But I thought that was
running around
really
in this
cool.
context is kind of on you. Like you picked up a random ring you found on a body, and we're like, I need to find whoever this ring belonged to. Like that's your fault. Sorry.
That felt very classic D&D like story quest, kind of similar to the finding the head in the Fenrir's Keep. Felt like a very classic D&D sort of story where you find this weird head and it leads you on a little quest. Like it felt very classic D&D the way, and I really appreciate that.
You said classic D&D way too many times in a row.
Well, I say classic D&D as many guy climbs if I classic D&D want to classic D&D.
Stop saying it.
No.
Okay, I will stop saying classic D&D. Anyway, you bring it back to her husband, who is the most coping human being of all the fucking time.
Right, he's such a loser. He's like, I feel no emotion, but I feel that I want vengeance. What the fuck does that even mean? Like, bro,
Robots
what a loser.
don't have emotions, and that makes me very sad.
Yes, he's like, exactly, literally. I feel nothing for her death. No, literally says, yes, this ring was my wife's. Her fate was the fate of all those who fail to endure these harsh times. I feel nothing for her death, nor for the story you tell of her body's abduction. Such feelings have long since grown cold within me, but desire does still burn in my dead heart. Desire for revenge.
Like this, what the fuck? He's so silly.
Absolute LARPer right here.
And then you go find a murderer and kill him and cut off his hands.
You cut off his hands, bring it to him, and the guy's like, "Fuck yeah, you brought the killer's hands back." What is it? Here, take the ring you returned earlier. Delia's been dead to me for so long. Her ring is a bauble I can no longer care to keep. Instead, I'll keep these hands as remembrance of my friend's betrayal.
What a weirdo! That's such a weird guy.
To be fair, if you became a zombie, you also would start LARPing. It's just how it is.
I would never become a zombie. I would have died.
I would never become a zombie. Skill issue, I think.
Wait, no, I'd be like those people in Cataclysm Silverpine who are who are offered like lycanthropy. They're like, well, I would die before becoming a worgen, but they'll just raise my body to be an undead anyway, so may as well become a wolf. That's me. That's me right there.
But yeah, I actually like this quest a lot. It was a little goofy, but it did like speak to this like sense of like the undead, like really looking for a meaning and like just be like grasping at things and be like, oh, I can't like remember my last old love. Like that's the past. I have to throw that. Like even though he's like clearly obsessed with her, like clearly he just like desires to prevent vengeance for her sake more than anything in the world. He's like, okay, well I'll just have to sub in like that ring, that old nostalgic thing of the human entity for what I experienced as undead, which is hands, like literal physical body parts, like taken away from their source, and like that they give new meaning. It kind of reminds me of the disembodied head from Fenrir's Keep, right? It's a similar sort of like disembodiment, like the experience of the world is so fucked up and changed that you can't even trust what a body parts, your own body or the bodies of the people around you. They now have to be in new context, and I thought that's pretty cool.
It's also very similar to the quest, like I feel in the way that he rejects his own feeling despite immediately expressing feeling after that is very similar to the quest from Tirisfal Glades, where you find this woman's dead husband's like thing, and then you bring it to her, and she's like, "Oh, I don't feel anything for him anymore. The only thing I feel is loyalty to the Dark Lady." But then she immediately after that expresses like how much she misses her fucking husband. It's like it's always there in the undeads, this rejection of their past selves with but combined with their inability to escape that past self, because they're defining themselves based on their past selves. Of course they can't escape it. It's not possible. It's so sad. Poor babies.
The biggest thing, though, I feel like is I really like is just like seeing the just absolute wall of these desperate humans just gathered as transients at the Gilnean wall, desperately hoping for a way in. It's so good. Like, it sets the tone so well.
I'm so glad they moved those transients to Westfall after Cataclysm. That was a good move by them.
I don't think that's the same transients. I think those are different transients.
I'm making a bad joke. It's fine. It's fine. Anyway, let's talk about Cataclysm. Unless you guys want to talk about anything else.
I feel like we covered most of it. I mean, Shadowfang Keep, we haven't really talked much about Shadowfang Keep, but really it's just, you go into Shadowfang Keep, Argyle does some evil gloating, you kill his wolfmen, fight your way to the center of his keep, it's got some wizard tower stuff going on, and then you kill him.
And then you roll higher than your older sibling on Argyle's robes, and then you get Argyle's robes, and then Torn gets mad.
Skill issue, TBH.
To be clear, to be fair, we've shed a lot on Argyle in this whole show and the way that he's depicted. I do agree, but Shadowfang Keep itself is actually really effective and well done dungeon. I don't really care that much to go into it right now, but I think it's a really, really well made dungeon, across the board.
It's
a
great fun dungeon, well designed, it goes with the vibe of the zone. But it's not oh my god, I mind blowing or anything. But it is good.
It is good, yeah. And actually, well done mechanics, for the first time, in Classic WoW so far.
That's crazy. True. Classic WoW doesn't have mechanics.
But yeah, no, that's about it for Classic Silverpine. I just wish there was more of it. I wish there was more to it than there is. There's so much potential there for more.
We killed wolves so much. We killed wolves so much. We drove Torn's partner away.
It's miserable the amount of down garbage time in Silverpine Forest. It is a terrible zone in terms of flow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The beginning is particularly bad.
Now for a zone that's quite good in terms of flow, we have Silverpine Cataclysm. Silverpine Cataclysm is
this one.
It is not the same zone in any way. Let me tell you about the similarities between Silverpine Forest in the Cataclysm and Silverpine Forest in Classic. There are Worgen. You work for the Forsaken.
Hey, forgot that it's called Silverpine Forest.
Oh, you also forgot that there's incompetent spies who get fucked up again.
True, I forgot. It's not the most memorable part of either version of the zone. I'm sorry.
I don't know what you're talking about. Those suspicious bears. Conspicuous bears. That shit's so funny.
Hi, the enemy is called an inconspicuous bear. Don't call them out on it.
They're conspicuous as hell. Anyway, okay, so I want to start with the entering the zone and what happens, because you get a little conversation, a little cutscene kind of thing between Sylvanas and Garrosh. I commented on this on the previous episode that it's sad because they removed Garrosh calling Sylvanas a bitch, but we'll get to that.
Garrosh still calls Sylvanas bitch in my heart, so it's fine.
Yeah, no, I said it in my head, of course.
Amazing.
But anyway, this is a very important conversation because you are watching two leaders of the Horde, Sylvanas, leader of the undead, and Garrosh, the new war chief, converse with each other. Basically, Sylvanas has brought Garrosh here to show him a shall we say, tactical advantage she gained after the what's it called? Lich King. The
Wrathgate.
The Wrath of the Lich King.
The Wrath of the Lich King. Yes, that expansion.
Sorry.
The expansion, sorry. She has brought Valkyrie into her undead. She is basically, they had nowhere to go after the Lich King died. She sort of adopted them. And Valkyrie are the people who have the power to raise people from the dead. Specifically humans for some reason, like no other things can be raised from the dead by Valkyries.
That was very strange. I'm like, why did
I didn't really get that. I don't know what's up with that, because the Lich King can raise whoever he wants, but apparently Valkyrs can only raise humans. But
Valkyr are specifically like almost like pseudo goddesses of the Vrykul, so maybe that's why the Vrykul,
yeah, because humans came from I guess that sort of makes sense. But anyway, she basically has a bunch of people, like Alliance humans, that have been slaughtered in this pit. And then she's like, Garrosh, watch this. And then she has her Valkyr raise them into new undead. So Garrosh reacts very badly to this. He basically is like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't kill people and then make them into undead. You're basically the same as what's the difference between you and the Lich King?
Isn't obvious? I serve the Horde.
Yes, and then after that, in the original version, Garrosh says, "Watch your clever mouth, bitch." And then I think in this version he just says, "Watch your clever mouth," right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same. They just remove the word.
So I think removing. I understand. Like, the reason they moved the bitch line is because Blizzard had some problems with like rampant, terrible sexism and sexual harassment within their own like corporation or whatever. But I think removing the bitch line is actually a mistake for some reasons, because basically, so Garrosh is right. Sylvanas is doing something that is completely unethical. You cannot kill people who are your enemies and then raise them and make them undead that serve you. That is like, you are enslaving them to you. You are forcing them into being undead. Like, that is totally unethical. But Garrosh is also a terrible, terrible person. And he is not meant to be a reasonable, like it's important that you think about Sylvanas's perspective and Garrosh's perspective. And so him calling her a bitch makes you feel like he's less reasonable and like a worse person. So you immediately feel more defensive for Sylvanas, even though she's doing something terrible, which puts you in the mindset of the undead, which I think is really important. But I'm probably obsessing way too much over one fucking word, but I think that it's actually important.
Also, I'm not gonna lie, Garrosh goes kind of hard in Cataclysm. He was pretty cool.
Hot as fuck. I hate Garrosh, but he's kind of sexy. Like, sorry.
You want him to call you that? Call you slurs, apparently.
Bitch is not a slur. What?
Yeah, have you seen that one meme that's like, I hate calling my bitch wife, but she loves it when I call her my bitch wife, so I can't stop calling my bitch wife my bitch wife.
Amazing.
I like that. Anyway, sorry, I talked way too much about that.
I would actually say the biggest difference here, though, is not actually necessarily the big Sylvanas. That is important. It's that the first thing you see when you walk into the second Forsaken zone is Forsaken, a massive like military encampment that the Forsaken have like set up with like tents and like war machines and like apothecarias, and like this feels like it's a place that the Forsaken are actually like using. Like, this isn't just like a shitty frontier that you're encroaching on. There's like an actual like Forsaken army here, an empire that wasn't really present in the original.
It makes the scene where like Sylvanas uses the Valkyr to raise the undead because like make a lot more sense. You're like, oh, she's literally just conquering people, killing them, and then raising them, and then making her army bigger and bigger.
Yeah, and
classic Lich King move.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it really speaks to, like, the Tears of Glade experience, right? In Tears of Glade, we felt like was mainly this experience of the world starting to fill itself out. The undead, the Forsaken starting to build themselves their own culture, their own experience, their own shared narrative, right? They have their own architecture now, their own ways of speaking. They feel like more strongly British. I mean, like, they have these different elements which they bring them together. You don't really get this Empire feeling because they don't actually they occupy a few more parts of Tears of Glades, but not that much more. They already like sort of clearly mostly control the zone. But here in Silverpine, you feel like that experience has like been internalize and then push forward into like an externalize, right? It's almost like in colonizing another, you self like define your own like experience back at home, right? I mean, this is like a very like some of these like studies like empire theory and like in history, very common like theories that like the metropole in like putting their ideas, putting their basically sending out their colonists to the world, their merchants to the world. They then reinforce like nationalist ideas back at home based on the ways that their expatriates like interact with the outside world, right?
It's also like the most violent form of like cultural like destruction and like indoctrination of people into the culture, like literally killing them and raising them as one of your people.
For sure. But I think it's very like compelling is like why Sylvanas would do this, right? Because the undead would slowly dwindle until they all were gone, right? And this is the only way that Sylvanas can see that keeps the Forsaken as a people alive. And like Sylvanas like pretends to have this very like removed attitude to the world, but it's very clear in this long speech she gives you like halfway through the zone that she's extremely invested in the Forsaken as a people and like their specific shared cultural experience, their ability to push forward and like multiply and plant and like basically like spread their ideas and culture and lives into the world.
Sylvanas is just terrified of being it's very trauma based. Like Sylvanas is terrified that her people are going to just be destroyed and killed and nothing will be left, just like what happened in Quel'Donis when she wasn't able to save her people then. She will save her people now. They are going to thrive and conquer. She will never have to lose everyone ever again.
And it's interesting, really, as like a contrast to that like beginning here, where like the vanilla Forsaken are these like just scrabbling just to survive against these horrible conditions where they are the least, they're the least power there. They have the least ability to project any force. They are just doing their best to survive. And now they've turned the corner. But they still have that same cultural idea of that hard scrabble, we will survive and rule at any cost. But now they're the dominant force. Now
I don't
they're
think
the empire.
the we will survive and rule was there before. I think it was we will survive no matter the cost, but I definitely didn't feel the rule thing before.
But it
like that
it
feels
naturally
new
flows.
that feels new in Cataclysm.
But that's what happens when you have a siege mentality. That's what happens when you have like a population with a siege mentality stuck in a terrible position.
Sure. I'm saying they feel like they're out of their victim mentality. Like they were definitely within the victim, like for very good reason within vanilla WoW. But now they feel pretty out. Like Sylvanas feels like she's still in victim mentality, but the undead as a whole feel, to me, out of it.
I don't know if I totally agree though. Because like the thing is like this kind of imperial mentality in which in which this conquest happens is a manifestation of the same mentality, just with a difference of like where the actual power stands.
But that makes a huge difference.
It does, definitely, but it's an outgrowth of the same mentality, is my point.
But they don't feel like they're not constantly being like, oh no, what if we all die? They're like, okay, we're gonna kill these people. Like that's a very different vibe.
True. So yeah, you're the baddies in this, so.
I don't think that you.
Are you the baddies? Like, who are the goodies?
Not
the Gilneans certainly aren't.
I feel like they're less bad than the people who are like,
No, the baddies are clearly
them from the dead.
The baddies are definitely those three dudes, the guys you raise, the former Gilneans.
Okay, so speaking of which, so let's get into that. Hey, remember Gilneas, that like isolationist nation from before? Yeah, the wall got broken. The wall got fucking broken by the Cataclysm. The Worgen got in. The Gilneans got into. The Gilneans became Worgen, and now with the encroachment of the Forsaken, they are now the people who are fighting the Forsaken. The Worgen packs of Silverpine have bonded with the like human nation of Gilneas, and are now presenting a unified front to fight them. It's really cool, like as an antagonistic faction.
Yeah, it basically starts like a huge conflict between them, and the main part of the story is the like basically the undead invasion into Gilneas. Throughout it, basically, you take more and more territory. Although the Gilneans are able to gain some front, like and they team up with Worgen. But basically, the undead are clearly winning in this situation.
Yeah, no, I'd say so. Like, you fight through a bunch of stuff. You find a bunch of orcs. Oh, by the way,
I forgot about the orcs.
The
There's a
orcs are so
weird
funny.
you have a sideshow of a bunch of orc sailors that have joined to help with the conquest of the proper like conquest of Silverpine. And they're all drunk. And they shipwrecked because they were all real drunk.
Yeah, they fight on. They're like, oh no, we have to like avenge our drunkenness. And they're like, well, after you eventually get them all undrunk, they're like, wait, our guys are really bad at fighting when they're not drunk. So you have to get them all drunk again.
That's crazy. That's such a weird quest.
In terms of Cataclysm comedic relief, I actually think this zone. I think it's fine. I think it like didn't. I think
you're
the
one who hates Cataclysm comic relief the most.
I know, which is why I'm saying when it was fine here that it like it didn't interfere with the tone of the zone.
Yeah,
it wasn't just fine; it was great.
It continued the weird tradition that WoW has, where every single second zone involves you like having a bad impression of the other factions of your same like the other races of your same faction. For some reason, I don't understand why this is a thing that WoW does, but it just consistently does it. Like in Dark Sword, the gnomes and the dwarves look like losers. In Lock of Madon, the humans look like losers, and here the orcs look like losers. I don't know.
Humans are losers. Like they're like weird looking Vicryl. Like that's embarrassing. They're like Vicryl if they were small. Look at my baby. It's fucked up because its face is really smooth and it's tiny. Ew.
But yeah, like you have a cool like war campaign arc there. And you actually have a bit of the zone where you strike into Gilneas, which is, hey, you like gloomy forests? Guess what? It's more gloomy forests.
Hey.
This gloomy forest is really sexy. It's way sexier.
Yeah, it's not actually really a forest in like the dense, like thicket forest of like Silverpine or Terrace of Flames. It is much more like very much like an agricultural society where the trees are very far apart. You can see pretty far all the time. They're big cliffs. It doesn't feel like a forest really. It feels more like a tree heavy like area of like mostly farming.
Indeed.
Yeah, it makes sense. Regardless, you go in there, and you go in there for this special mission. And you like get to know some like fun little like undead characters who you like. I do think the zone does a decent job of like giving these guys just enough characterization to give you a bit of camaraderie with them before they get mauled by Worgen.
Yeah, actually, I think that was pretty effective. I was like, oh no, my friends are dead. That's so sad. It's like the minimum emotional involvement with those characters.
Yeah, it works. And you do this like big, dangerous, like infiltrating mission where you fight the elite of the Alliance. These super special forces, the 7th Legion.
Yes.
They're
Clean
just
shit.
They're just Navy SEALs, but for the Alliance, I'm pretty sure.
It was pretty cool depicting like you like falling into their trap and getting completely repelled and like completely like get your like entire like basically army like devastated and get pushed out, right? Because like up to this point, right, the Forsaken have basically entirely been successful and like always been like, oh, we can keep doing our weird thing where you raise people because
that's That's
we're
not
always winning.
evil
We're
at
always pushing
all.
we're always pushing forward, right? Doesn't matter as long as like our society keeps growing. But here, like when everything doesn't work, right? When it's just everyone's fought to a standstill, they're pushed beyond the gate again. I thought that was pretty cool. It's like a way of like almost like realpolitik.
It makes the alliance legitimately seem scary, which
Yeah.
I think is good. I think that's
Yeah, I
that's very effective.
Now, what you do is, and your entire purpose is to find 3 corpses. 3 corpses
I
of
feel
some
like
guys
it's kind
that
of
you
a waste of resources, you know?
of characters that you, as a Forsaken player, have no idea who these people are. They are. It is a major villain and his flunkies of the Worgen starting zone, which
That's such a good zone.
which we'll talk about
So
later.
good.
But like as a undead like or Forsaken player, before you know this, these are just literally just some schmucks from Gilneas that you know hate Worgen, and you bring them back from the dead, and they dress cool goth robes, and are jerks. I don't think Lord Godfrey really worked here as well as he could have.
I think he works if you played the Gilnean zone. But if you haven't. Although I thought it was really cool when like later you're partnered up with these 3 guys and you're questing through the Pyrewood village, which is the little human village that existed here where people turned to Worgen at night. And you're given this quest to rescue the undead soldiers who got left behind. And when you go to rescue them, one of the 3 guys with you just fucking kills them. He said, "These cowards don't deserve to live. We don't need them." And he kills them. It's horrifying. I think that's pretty effective. And then you go through and you eventually are sent on this mission to kidnap Lord Crowley's daughter, who is Lord Crowley is one of the leaders of the Worgen, who's also Gilnean. He and his daughter is unworganified. She's also part of the 7th Legion. So yeah, you definitely do that.
Which leads to
really
what
weird.
I think is
The optics
coolest
are really
bit of the
bad.
zone.
The optics are really bad when you like because you literally are there with your 3 friends, your 3 man friends, and you wail on this woman, and then you pick her up like princess style, one of the weird undead guys does, and then you bring her back to Sylvanas. It just looks terrible.
No, it was awesome. I loved it. I was like, yes, kidnap that woman. I'm so happy.
It's so creepy.
It does lead to the best part of the zone, the finale.
Yeah?
When you talk to Sylvanas for the final battle of Silverpine to occur, the final negotiation when you were to take Lorna to her father, and what happens is, I think, a really cool sequence, because you go out with Sylvanas on her horse as she demands their surrender, war between like these the Worgen and their alliance buddies and your Forsaken vanguard. There's
this really cool like choral line going as playing as you ride through the forest with Sylvanas.
Yeah,
beautiful. It plays this beautiful, haunting song called "The Lament of the Highborn," which, if you've played the Burning Crusade, this has like unofficially become Sylvanas' theme, and it is a song of mourning and death. And having that like somber melody play as
when does that play in Burning Crusade?
When you bring the remembrance thing to Sylvanas from the blood, like after you finish the Blood Elf starting zone, and you bring the thing to Sylvanas, that music plays. That's
really cool. That's cool.
And it's sort of that song that the actual Blood Elf starting zone music is based off of. It's really cool. So that playing as you like roach through and the zone thing works. It's just it's so good. It's such a good image, and I love that part for the zone. As you like, as you ride forward, bring Lorna to Lord Crowley, the leader of the Resistance, and demand his immediate surrender in exchange for her. And she's like, "What? You can't do this. You can't trade me for this, and Crowley says no.
Wait, I thought she was
can't let you die."
unconscious when that was happening. I thought it was.
No, you see-
Yvonne
you
yells
s-
at him. The blood fang.
No,
He's
no,
like, "What the hell?"
Lorna wakes up and I think yells at him, I believe. Trying to remember correctly.
But Yvonne Bloodfang definitely yells at him too. He's like, "You
That's
can't
true.
do that shit."
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
I was remembering wrong.
I thought Lorna was still unconscious because you're still carrying her unconscious body. The optics are horrible.
They're awesome.
It looks.
They're great.
Lord Godfrey just carrying it around.
Stop, princess, carrying that girl. It's weird.
And then Lord Godfrey.
She's also really hot. Lorna's really hot. Just so you guys know,
and
for
then
context, it's really important.
And then Lord Godfrey shoots Sylvanas in the back, killing her. And you have to fight him.
Yeah, it's crazy. She just dies. It's like, oh, Sylvanas is dead now. LOL. Whoopsies.
And then the Valkyr bring her back from the dead, and she says, like, "I see darkness before me." I don't think it works. It feels like mostly just an excuse for like to make there be a reason for the undead to go into Shadowfang Keep and fight its new master, which is Lord Godfrey. I don't think it works.
So I specifically think it works because I think it speaks. So that basically, Sylvanas' like goal, right, is to like make the undead into an actual like reproducing empire, right? Where the people make babies and the babies conquer more things and so on and so forth. Right, this way that every empire works.
These babies are really creepy looking.
But I think that there's a very strong like
it's like a fully grown man.
That it doesn't work, right? Eventually, it will come crashing down. Someone will betray it. The thing will fall apart. Their shared culture will be turned out to just be what it's like either your shared culture will just be like mindless scourge, or your shared culture will just the way that you give individuality lead people to the betraying and falling apart. And the fact is, like, your way of reproducing your empire is so horrifically unethical that like it can't actually continue. And I think like that like
Because
very visceral sense of like having someone who's die and reborn before you, I think like shows that in a very visceral sense to you. And I like
this theme is also explored again in Battle for Azeroth when Nathanos has you like raise a bunch of really important like alliance associated targets. And it's really horrific watching them deal with their new like undead. Like one of them chooses it, and then another one you force into it, and it's just like, but all of them always regret it.
I guess that is also a thing. Godfrey is the kind of man that Sylvanas' imperial conquest will like empower.
Yep.
Like this just like cruel and this cruel, ambitious man who just wants whose fundamental goal is like I have power and an agency and you all don't. So you will serve me or I will kill you. Which is a more crude and simplistic, but very similar to what Sylvanas is doing.
Yeah, and I think there's almost like a weird like paternalistic quality here, because Sylvanas is in place filled with male power, right? With Greymane and Ivan and Garrosh. Garrosh literally calling her a bitch, right? In fact, it's like Sylvanas is clearly trying to.
That's so hot. Good job.
Yeah, this actually goes back to the fact that I set that line with the way, because it's clear that Sylvanas is really insecure in her position. She's in this like weird sense of like all she has is this specific, almost like maternalistic, like I've given birth, I've like built this undead I'm supposed to get thing out of myself, and I have to push
super effective. Like during the conversation with Garrosh, like after he's like, "You can't do this. This is horrific. What makes you different from the Lich King?" And you can hear her like the panic in her voice when she says, "But my people will all die if I don't do this. We'll all die out." Like you can feel her desperation and fear.
Yeah,
and I think it's really important.
And the fact that like these three like just extreme, like clearly violently racist, misogynist like men just sort of be like, "Fuck you, we take our crude masculine power and run off," like in the exact same way you do, like almost like feels like it like shows Sylvanas' like ambitions to be nothing more than that. She's just dressed it up, and I think that's awesome. I love that.
That is cool.
Yeah.
Godfrey is, by the way, the new version of Shadowfang Keep has you, instead of dealing with Aurugol and his Worgen, it's pretty much the same basic structure. Some of the like stuff is still there, like a lot of the haunted stuff is there. But instead of having Aurugol and his Worgen, it's Lord Godfrey and his undead servants.
It's still a fun dungeon. Like I still like it.
I think that just about wraps up the zone. Ari, you want to lead us into
Sure thing.
Final part?
Right. So, what was your least favorite thing about classic Silverpine?
That it just doesn't hold together as a holistic zone very well. It just feels like you're doing a lot of things, and obviously there is the center figure of Arago holding it together, but the fact that he just feels so like, and I feel like you feel so ambivalent to his like presence that like because his presence isn't felt so strongly, even though he is sort of organizing all the forces in a sort of way, it doesn't feel that way. Actually playing to the zone, which just makes the whole thing feel like you killing a bunch of wolves and worgen and undead and wizards and gnolls and whatever, and it just feels like I'm just here for the sake of being here.
Yep. My least favorite thing is again how like I just have major problems with the way that Argyle is like the Argyle quest line and the way that the one wizard undead guy who gives you the quest disparages him at every opportunity and makes fun of him. Like it's like that doesn't this is supposed to be your main villain of the zone and you just spend the entire time making fun of him. It's like you know when you're in a D&D game and you're the DM and you're trying to set up your main villain, but all of your fucking players keep just like wisecracking through his monologue so he's not scary at all and it's so irritating. It's like that. He's like your stupid, obnoxious little player who doesn't shut up while your villains try to monologue.
Damn, you both took the things I was going to say. Fuck. Let's see if I can think of something.
I made that great point about D&D players.
That's true. You did. I would have made that. Dalar Dawnweaver. Shit.
Just say you didn't like killing all those wolves.
I mean, I didn't, but like it. I feel like in this zone that there's work. It's not as bad as Lochmadon in that sense. I think my least favorite part of the zone is just the complete. I think it's just how the beginning part. I think it's just how the three things don't connect. You have so much potential here. With again, you have three antagonistic factions of the Thorks, which are a mage from Dalar, an archmage from Dalaran of this like coven, the archmage leading the survivors from Dalaran, and the big bad of the zone, a less talented mage from Dalaran that found something and unleashed a terrible curse upon the land. And just nothing is drawn between these three things that feel like they should be connected in a way that could be meaningful and interesting. And it's just not there.
I agree. Yep.
Okay, especially when your main contact is a former Dalaran mage himself.
Or do we do least favorites of the other zone first? I don't remember.
What was your... No, we do least favorite, and then what is your favorite thing about Classic Silverpine?
My favorite thing about Classic Silverpine was the side quest of the guy whose head you find being kicked around by gnolls. I just really like the way it sort of shows almost a different experience of being undead, right? This guy isn't like the Forsaken. He doesn't have like free movement. He's not like this pseudo. He's not this like. He doesn't have this existential state of am I free? Am I scourged? What am I? He's just a bunch of bones that are just like conscious and it's just in complete strange terror and torment, right? And I feel like his like weird sort of like goofy humor he gives to sort of try to alleviate his honestly terrifying situation and like get you to try to take a little bit of revenge for him was I thought were very solid, very traditional fantasy storytelling.
That's fair. I think I've got to give mine to the Gravemain Wall. God, the Gravemain Wall is...
How dare you? I was next.
You stole Dalar Dawnweaver from me. I will steal the Gravemain Wall from you.
Steal him? I was going... Fuck you. Okay, continue.
Yeah, I will take the Gravemain just... I just absolutely adore that like visual there with like all of the transients there in front of this massive, imposing wall sealed forever with this one murderer guy. And there's this one like special merchant that you can talk to here because there's this one blind man that you can that you can talk to and like buy some like special healing potions from because he doesn't recognize that you're undead, and so he will accept your money. And I just thought that's really cool. That was cool. That's a really nice like touch there, like which like helps to reinforce like I feel like it really helps to reinforce like that fundamental humanity of everyone's situation here to have this here. it's sort of very much like the whole like Frankenstein's monster and the blind man thing from the actual book Frankenstein, in a way that I thought was a nice little bit there.
Very cool. Okay, my favorite thing is, well, it's related to Torrance, but it's Fenris Island as a whole. First of all, the introduction where you find a bunch of like dead bodies wrapped up that are being transported to Fenris Island of just like dug up people, which is horrific. The headless guy that's in there, the wizard, the ring quest, like where you have to go and find the guy, and then he's like, "Oh, go take revenge." Like everything around it, I think Fenris Island was like undoubtedly my favorite part of the entire zone. Everything there was really cool, like all of the quests surrounding it, and it was just a really great time.
All right. So, what was your least favorite thing about Cataclysm, Silverpine Forest?
My least favorite playing by Cataclysm Silverpine Forest was probably
The fact that Garrosh didn't call Sylvanas a bitch, I know. Grates my gear. No, I'm just kidding.
It's not even here.
Oh, sorry. Well, 1 second.
Mhm.
My least favorite part of Silverpine Forest was probably the fact that so one thing I really, really love about Tirisfal Glades is that I really get a new sense for the new architecture, the new culture of the undead. But I feel like the whole Silverpine Forest is so plot focused that I feel like I don't actually forward that sense of culture and self very much. Like I get Sylvanas' perspective and the whole idea of this world, but I don't get very much of the actual specific undead policies on colonization and like taking their new ideas in new space. And I was kind of sad about that. This is like almost like feels like a little of a cop out, but like I feel like Silver Forest didn't have too much that I was like very specifically upset about. More just like I felt like there were certain missed potentials that I was I was just a little bit like sad by.
My least favorite part was actually, I'm sorry, it actually legitimately is the removal of the bitch line, like, from Garrosh, because, again, like I went to detail, like, why I think that's actually important within that conversation, because Garrosh is right. Garrosh is correct, but he also is terrible, and Sylvanas' perspective should be looked at. Like the more I think about Sylvanas, the more I think that she's a good character. I still personally, I don't like Sylvanas. I do not enjoy her presence and her existence. But I think she is a good character. Like, and I do think she's a well-written character. I think people are wrong. I just think she's not likable enough to base 2 expansions on.
I think my least favorite thing about this zone is how they really have a very strong introduction to like the commander to this like to Ivar Bloodfang, the leader of this like a Worgen pack, the like bloodthirsty dude who's in this for his pack and only his only loyalty to the Alliance is like because it's helping fight the Forsaken.
It's convenient.
And you get a really strong introduction to him when he just like grabs where he sniffs you out and like grabs your another undead rogue and just rips her throat out in front of you, and it's really cool and really like helps establish this character. And then he just doesn't show up enough again. He shows up like 2 other times and you never get to fight him. And it's just like, this is why would you waste this like great villain quote unquote introduction and then not use him?
They haven't used him ever in any expansion.
He's never appeared since Cataclysm.
I mean, that's true of Crowley too. Like, I mean, his daughter does stuff, but he does not. It's really weird.
It is very strange.
All right. Now, what is your favorite thing about Cataclysm Silverpine?
My favorite thing about Cataclysm Silverpine was definitely the new Fenris Isle. You basically invade it with a Valkyr, and you fight all these humans. You collect their corpses, you raise them, and eventually you just like you find the heads of the basically the humans here are like refugees from South Shore, where the undead have also like extended their new empire to, and like drove all the humans out. And these are just the last remains of the South Shore humans that used to be like a big farming community there. And you fight your way through. You find their council. You like, and Sylvanas has sent you basically to kill and raise their council to basically rule over these new additions to the Forsaken. And they're all standing there basically with the vials of Worgen blood, and they're like, well, I would rather I'd rather die than become Morgan, but it seems like I don't even have a choice in that regard because like, even if I die, I will get raised as a dead. I thought that was a really intense and
It was
visceral
so
moment.
fucking cool.
It was really
That was
cool.
a good moment.
It's like,
Awesome.
It's like literally, this is so horrifying. I'd rather die, but I cannot die. Like the sense of like horror of like inability to escape trauma, even in the path of the one way you're supposed to escape trauma. I think is really just really really cool, and I liked it quite a lot.
Yeah. My favorite thing. Sorry, guys. I'm gonna talk about it some more. It's still the conversation between Garrosh and Sylvanas. Like, I really think that Sylvanas is a good character, and I like to see Garrosh characterization because, well, he's going to be the main villain of the next expansion, so it's kind of important that he gets some characterization to him. And I think the conversation is a very good establishment of both characters to the player, especially if you haven't encountered them before.
I'm just going to reiterate it. It's the like the beginning of that last quest where you just like stride onto the battlefield with Sylvanas, the haunting melody of Lament of the Highborn playing, the quest objective being victory absolute and victory total and absolute. This just moment where this moment of full circle where you do brood, where you cow the Worgen into submission to force your claim. It's very effective and very, 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 very cool to have like all that going on with that dissonant serenity. It's so good.
Yeah.
Now,
Definitely agree. It's great.
would you recommend doing classic Silverpine?
I guess if you're bored, you know.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Like, it does a job. It's a place.
It sure is classic. Wow, haha.
If you have a good group, Fenris Isle is pretty fun, and so is the dungeon.
Fenris Isle is literally impossible if you don't have a group though. Like you can't kill that main guy.
That's true.
It's
Like, we literally tried so many times it was embarrassing.
I don't think it really works in a way that I would like it to. I think undead characters, like, you're not really getting the continuation of the story that you might want here. It might honestly be the time to just go to the Barrens and hang out there, but we'll get into that one later.
Isn't the Barrens infamously bad? I've never played.
Infamously.
I never played classic.
You'll see me at the Barrens. Barrens is an interesting zone.
Okay.
Yeah,
I always played Alliance back then. I was a little gnome girly.
Yeah,
I can't recommend Silverpine Forest in good faith. It's just a lot of nothing for. There are little good things in it, but you have to really like dig for them. It kind of reminds me of like classic Elwyn Forest in that way, or classic Dunmore, where there are good things there, but you just
it's not as bad as those ones.
It's better than those, but it's the same similar sort of issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, what did you think of Cataclysm Silverpine Forest?
I would definitely recommend it. I think it's a good zone.
Yeah. I would recommend it, but I don't think it's as quite as like incredibly good as its reputation sort of precedes it. Like it's a really good zone. It has some really cool things, but I don't think it's some sort of like masterpiece. Like I don't think it's nearly as good as Tears.
Better.
Yeah, I don't think it's nearly as good as Tearsfall Glades, the classic, or Cataclysm, for example.
Or Darkshore. Darkshore Cataclysm is so good.
We did Darkshore Classic and Cataclysm. I think our two favorite second zones so far. Though we still have a couple more that we need to get through.
Westfall time, right?
Right. So speaking of which, you beat me to it. But yes, the next zone that we're going to be going to is the second human zone, Westfall.
I'm so fucking excited. This better hold up to how I remember it. Okay, otherwise I'm gonna cry.
So it'll be great. We got Moonbrook.
I gotta go get those fucking gore tusk guts so I can make that soup thing.
Based.
Yeah. That's I remember doing that quest like 14 times.
All right.
It takes a long time.
So, thank you guys for listening, and we'll hear again for another episode of Wowed by Zones.
Bye.
Bye.